Hi guys, it's Monday night. Hope you had a great day. It's been beautiful sunshine here in Eyemouth. I spent this afternoon taking a video of going round Eyemouth for the virtual prayer walk on Friday. You can join with us at 11 a.m. on Zoom. There's details on the Facebook page. It's hosted by East Berwickshire Churches Together. We do it every year, and it's a prayer meeting as we walk around Eyemouth, stopping at different places like the primary school, the police station, local businesses, and so on. So if you can join us, that would be great at 11 o'clock. The video will kind of help us do that virtual prayer walk. Yesterday was Palm Sunday, the day we remember Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. Riding on, can you remember what he rode in on? Yep, that's right, on a donkey. This is a prized possession of mine, treasured. My gran knitted it, and there he is. And they waved palm branches and cried out Hosanna, and we have our palm crosses. If you haven't got one, we can give you one after lockdown is over. We've got plenty. Today, and as we go through Holy Week, we're going to just glimpse at different events in the life of Jesus. It's action-packed and full, being his last week before culminating in the crucifixion on Friday, his death and burial, and then the resurrection on Easter Sunday. Easter Monday, we remember several events in the life of Jesus, but I'm just going to read a few verses in Matthew chapter 21, carrying on there from his triumphal entry at verse 12. Jesus entered the temple area and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. "It is written," he said, "My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." The blind and lame came to him at the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the teachers of the law saw the wonderful things he did, and the children shouting in the temple area, "Hosanna to the Son of David," they were indignant. "Do you hear what these children are saying?" they asked him. "Yes," Jesus replied. "Have you never read, 'From the lips of children and infants you have ordained praise'?" And he led them and went out of the city to Bethany, where he spent the night. Amen. We are in lockdown, as you know, and it can be really difficult. We can get grumpy and angry at ourselves, at our family, at loved ones, at friends, at folks on the telly who aren't self-isolating or who are flouting the rules. We can get angry at the injustice of the NHS not having enough personal protective equipment. There's lots of things in this new and strange and difficult time that we can be upset about and angry. I don't know about you, but when I get hungry or overly tired, I get angry or hangry. And anger we often see as a negative thing. And yet here we have an incident. It's not the only incident where Jesus demonstrates anger. Now, of course, Jesus was fully human. He was like us in every way except without sin. So he was tempted, he got tired, he got frustrated, he got disappointed, he got depressed. And we'll look at that on Thursday night. But he also got angry. Now, some people have this picture of Jesus as being gentle Jesus, meek and mild, as the children's hymn goes. But Jesus isn't meek or mild here. We saw that at Bethany, where he healed Lazarus from the dead. That is an incident where Jesus is more angry, but if you didn't join us for that, we'll leave that aside and we'll talk about that one another time again. Jesus here is angry. He's furious. But it's not like our anger, or my anger at least. Sometimes we can be angry about the right things to be angry about. There is a sense of righteous indignation where we see an injustice, we get angry about it, and we are moved to action. And that's a great thing. Our problem is that righteous anger doesn't just stay a righteous anger. It overflows into wrong thoughts, wrong actions, and wrong attitudes. And yet Jesus here in the temple is furious at the injustices and the abuse being perpetrated against the people of Jerusalem and against the whole people of Israel by the religious leaders and by the structures and authorities in place. So if you went to the temple, you had to exchange your money, which was Roman-occupied money, for temple money. You couldn't buy sacrifices with your own money. You would exchange it at the temple, and so in the outer courtyards of the temple, these money changers had set up business. On one level, fair enough. But what they were doing was they weren't giving a good rate of exchange. They were cheating people, they were making money, and they were profiteering off people coming to worship God. They turned God's house, a house of prayer, into a house of robbers. So they would rob, they would cheat, there was corruption. And that cheating, that corruption hurt not only financially the weak, the vulnerable, the needy, but it created a barrier between them and God as they wanted to go and worship. The whole system stank, and Jesus was furious about it. But it was so central to the power and authority of the religious leaders that they couldn't cope with his anger about it. We as Christ's followers should be angry about structural injustices. We should be angry at the church when the church blocks people from access to God. We've done it throughout our history. We should be angry that people out there think, God's not for me, God doesn't care, God doesn't love me, I'm not good enough. Why would I want anything to do with the church or God because of how they behave? We should be angry at ourselves, at religious leaders, at this church structures, when they block and perpetuate these thinking. But for us, it's much more difficult because we then go on to think negative things and do the wrong thing. We should be angry about the state of homelessness in our nation. We should be angry about the treatment of refugees. We should be angry about the treatment of youngsters who don't have enough food. We should be angry about the lines for the food banks. We should be angry about the state of our National Health Service being under-resourced. We should be angry about key workers not having enough personal protective equipment. We should be angry about carers and delivery drivers and shop assistants being undervalued and regarded as low-skilled or nothing. We should be angry at injustice. We see also in amongst Jesus' anger the reaction of the authorities. They were perplexed, appalled scandalized that Jesus would dare to question their authority. But look at the different response with the children, the blind and the lame, the vulnerable, the weak in society, the ones that the authorities regarded as irrelevant. They're not scared of Jesus in his anger and in his outrageous demonstration of that anger. They flock to him. They know he is on their side. I wonder if we know he's on our side and we'll flock to him as he demonstrates righteous anger against the injustices in our world and calls us to change them. The children cried out, "Hosanna to the Son of David," in fulfillment of prophecy from Psalm 8, which is what Jesus quotes there. Did you not hear? Have you never read? From the lips of children and infants you have ordained praise. He left them and went out of the city to Bethany, where he spent the night. And tomorrow the intensity of Passion Week ramps up even more. Jesus was angry at the injustice. He was angry at sin and death and the condition of humanity. But he showed love and compassion to the blind and the lame and the weak and the vulnerable, and he loved the children when the leaders thought they were irrelevant. Speaking of loving children, I want to shout out to one of our young members of church, to Juna, Miss Juna Rose Valentine, because today is her 6th birthday. I can't quite believe that. Juna is a wee star and I love her to bits. So Juna, hello. I still remember Juna when she was just tiny and sort of 2.5, going and standing with our little choir and singing along and making noise, but looking so sweet and innocent as she still is. And it still warms my heart. And I often think of her when I think of this verse from Psalm 8, "From the lips of children and infants you have ordained praise." I wonder if we'll join with the children and infants and join in praise to God in our struggles just now. So lots of love. Keep in touch with everybody, and we'll check in tomorrow with the next episode on Holy Week. And Juna, have a brilliant barbecue, and see you sometime soon, hopefully, once this is over. Lots of love, folks.